All right, so during one of our Jeopardy games in class, most groups got a chance to try this particular question, right, which is from our ratio difficulty section. So particular lasagna recipe calls for 100 grams of Romano cheese, 300 grams of mozzarella cheese, and 250 grams of cottage cheese. If 900 grams of cottage cheese were used, how many grams of Romano and mozzarella are needed? So this question is asking us to set up a ratio to start, and then we're going to set up a proportion to solve it using one of the two methods that we know. So if we go try and solve this now, we're going to start off by creating our ratio. So we know Romano cheese, right? We have 100 grams. Mozzarella, we have 300 grams. And cottage cheese, we have 250 grams. So now they're asking us, well, if I have 900 grams of cottage cheese, how much mozzarella cheese and how much Romano cheese, which is really similar to the recipe activities that we did in class earlier in this section. So if we look down here, right, we can rewrite this as a ratio. All right, each of these become a ratio. But because we have two unknowns and it's a three-term ratio, we're not used to seeing that. We're going to turn them into two-term ratios. So for now, we're just going to ignore this part here. Right, we're going to work on the mozzarella first. So we do have 300 grams of mozzarella to 250 grams of cottage cheese. Then we're told 900 grams of cottage cheese and how much mozzarella. Now this looks like an equivalent ratio that we're used to seeing, and we're going to rewrite it as one. So if I rewrite this, this is like saying 300 grams to 250 grams is equal to an X number of grams compared to 900 grams. All right, and now we talked about turning these into fractions, so it's easier to set up the proportion. So 300 grams divided by 250 is going to be equal to X number of grams over 900. And so now we can actually use either our fish method, all right, or cross multiply divide, or our proportional reasoning. So for this one, I'm going to use proportional reasoning. I'm going to figure out, well, how do I get from 250 to 900? 250 times something is going to give me 900. Using our fact families, we know that 250 times something equals 900 is the same way as saying 900 divided by 250 is going to give me my question mark. So if we are to calculate this, 900 divided by 250 is going to give me 3.6. Right? So up here, this question mark now becomes times 3.6. But what we do on the bottom, we have to do to the top. So 300 times 3.6 is going to be 1,080. All right, so what this represents, this is 1,080 grams of mozzarella if we have 250 grams of cottage cheese. So we found one value. Now we still have to go back and calculate our Romano cheese. So if we go back here, all right, we figured this one out. This is now 1,080 grams. All right, but we still need to figure out the Romano. Okay, we still don't know this amount here. So we're going to use, again, our ratios. Right, we can use the cottage cheese now that we know, just to be certain. So if we go back down, all right, we have 100 grams, right? It's going to be equal to 250 grams of cottage cheese. We have 900 grams of cottage cheese now, and we want to know how many grams of Romano cheese that is. So again, I'm going to use the fish method in this one, okay? We're going to say this is our unknown, so we're going to label this as X. That's what we're trying to find. And using the fish method, I always start at the number, right, that's across from the variable. Okay, so if the variable is on the bottom, it's the number on top. If the variable is on top, it's the number on bottom. So now I'm going to go across, then up, and then I always finish at my variable. We finish looking like a fish. The first two values, so these two here, right, we're going to multiply multiply them. So 100 times 900 is going to equal 90,000. All right? And then from here, we have to divide by this number here. Okay, so divide 90,000 divided by 250, which is equal to 360. So when we finish with our answer, we're going to have 360 grams of Romano cheese for every 250 grams of cottage cheese. So if we go back up here, we can now fill in that unknown ratio, 360 grams.